Chapter 1, Seeking Emotional Harmony. So, the image here is a general representation of two main components. One is the identity, which is on the right side, I am as consciousness, and then in the center is our emotional states. So, at the core of our emotional landscape is always peace. We have inputs, we have feedback from our environment, which can be a physical perception, and our intelligence is always acting on those perceptions. And then we have desires based on our memories, right? So, now let's discuss in detail what or how we are always seeking this emotional harmony, and sometimes we are not even aware of the fact that we are seeking this emotional harmony, the unconscious state we are in. So now at the center of all emotional state, we constantly want to rest in an anxiety free state. So now that is, peace is at the core. We don't want to be anxious. If we are not anxious, by default our emotional state is peace. So to clarify, peace is not laughter, it is not happiness, but a simple contentment in this moment. You are completely present, happy with whatever the environment is providing you. So now this does not demand an external stimulus to get there, whether it be physical pleasure or the memory of the past which you are trying to reach. Of course, the contrary is true as well. So a disappointment will arise when the pleasure you are anticipating is missed and the expectations of an event, the fulfillment you are desiring it from it is no more there. So now this follows a negative emotion. When the external events are witnessed and the perceptions are absorbed, a stable core emotion of peace is naturally maintained when the identity is not limited by the role and memory one is entangled with. And the awakened identity or the realized identity of consciousness, this fosters the presence of a stable harmonic field that is receptive enough to the aware of the emotional state of the surroundings, and also to protect the core emotion against any intrusion from the objects of consciousness. The objects, basically, this may include the physical perceptions, intelligence, your own intelligence, which is actuated by separation to protect that limited mortal self, or just simply the memory entangled personal desires, as I mentioned. So, the stable harmonic field is a result of a state of presence which is consciously recognized in the midst of your current story, without expecting the external stakeholders of your story to align with the presence of the individual who is moving and thinking in the light of the recognized non dual awareness. So, the body has a way of remembering the moments when you get close to the self realization field. The pleasant states of sought after physical pleasure and a mental relief from the stress of the unknown becoming known are the results of the unconscious moving from egoic state to being presence. Now let's explore the secondary aspect, or how the core emotion is affected when we identify ourselves as the ego or simply a memory based identity. So now in this image, which shows a change in the harmonic field, so the harmonic field here is not stable and it is vulnerable or susceptible to the inputs from the environment, whereas if here it was a stable thing, so a circle indicating no matter what the external circumstances are, it plays on, the emotions are valid, all kind of emotions depending on the situation. You respond with a certain controlled emotion to whatever degree. It could be a happy pleasant emotion or an unpleasant emotion. When the situation demands, where you are expressing your emotions, not just the verbal, it's an energetical response to a situation which, when it's needed, any of it is valid, the pleasant or the unpleasant, you respond. The core emotion is not affected, it is always there. So this circle symbolizes the stability of that harmonic field. And now we are talking about the vulnerable harmonic field, which is the result of the ego, right? So, the harmonic field, when the identity is constructed by a convinced belief of the I am, followed by a narrative. The narrative may be shaped by your professional expertise, relationship responsibilities that you wear, or simply by the memories of your failure or success from the past. Now, all these are happening because of that need or necessity to meet the survival and societal requirements. So, none of these supports a conscious connection with the intuition of what it means to be a metacognitive human. So, while some of us support the creation and sustenance of the matter matrix, being human is a privilege to support the evolution of your soul into the unified higher dimension. So, it is quite important in this time and age, while the 99% of the population is still in survival mode. It's time that the ascension begin and we start to recognize our non-dual nature, that we are consciousness. So, provided you have even a slight intuition of mystery of what it means to be a human in this lifetime. We all have it, just buried it with our desires, dramas, stories, projections, whatnot. All the objectives way of distracting ourselves, we are lost in it, and it's all right. Not everyone, as I say, is meant, but the window is always there. All you have to do is slow down, look, and wake up, and there are many resources which will come to you if you are available. So when the underlying identity is limited, it allows the objects of consciousness to disrupt the harmonic field, leading to reduced emotional intelligence. Now again, I want to just make this clear. Emotional intelligence does not mean you are not emotional, but it is you're aware of your emotional state, and your response is always centered in that awareness of your natural state of being, which is peace. From there on, you allow on the surface everything to play out. So you are surrounded by ignorance, a whole lot of ignorance, and now that is the beauty of planet Earth in this timeline. So things are there to test your conviction or realization, how deep it is or how deeply we have embodied in our movement in daily living. So the deeper we get in this realization, we are less reactive in our emotional states. So now this results in seemingly lost core emotion for an extended period of time, as I mentioned, which leads to a longer recovery process. So when you're ignorant about your identity, when you're egoic, so if it is not centered in consciousness, if you have not seen your identity as consciousness, if it is egoic, the recovery time to realize the peace is longer. We might even need certain substances, people, and activities to return back to that peace. Otherwise, if you really see that your core identity without mental narrative, without a concept, it's naturally consciousness. When you see that, the time needed to recover is very less. Whereas it could have otherwise been a conscious walk back to the peaceful, aware presence. Okay, so presence indicator. Emotions can be an indicator of how present you are. You can make use of your emotions to just observe your emotion, like scanning your own emotional state at any given moment. The more pleasant it is, the more present you are. Alright, so at any given moment, the degree of presence and availability to the moment is reflected in the emotional state of the individual. This emotional state acts as an indicator that one can use to contemplate their way toward a non-dual state of presence. So the challenge here is to make use of the intellect to direct attention toward becoming aware of the experience of having an emotion, and more importantly, to recognize the specific kind of feeling that is present. A simple and direct non-dual meditation practices, which will be discussed in the second part, will provide formal tools that you can use to guide yourself to that aware space that enables the mind to function efficiently and contemplate the nature of your current emotional state more honestly. So I already have some videos, guided meditations on how you can be more present. So in the end, the second part has some contemplative meditation sessions as well. I will create videos for that going forward. So until then, if you feel like you need to explore that silence or awareness more, there is already some 3 or 4 videos I have made which you can use. Okay, so of course the goal is to eventually transit to informal awakened state where every moment is an act of meditation. So meditation is the formal meditations which people have an image of is usually eyes closed, breathing, sitting silently, not doing anything. Of course, even with eyes closed, there are a lot of depth to what degree you are contemplating, to what degree you are aware of your body and the environment with eyes closed. In any case, eventually, everything we do, the waking state from the moment we get up till we go to bed, at least, the waking state, every moment can be meditative. Every activity you do can be intimate. So this is can be related to mindfulness. Mindfully you are doing implies you are completely present in the moment. There is no ego. It's just consciousness interacting in its own space. So now this is an intuitive realization. We can phrase words to express this feeling of how it feels like to interact in the awakened state. But irrespective of the language, no language needed, you're just present mindfully. And meditation is not just that formal eyes closed, it's also informal in every activity you do. So now I can speak in terms of harmonic field or emotion. A present emotion implies a stable field that provides space for the intellect to inquire and guide the moving objects of consciousness towards the field of self-realization. So the notes we have when we are in the pleasant state of emotion, our intellect is sharp enough, and now this provides a space for us to contemplate and realize its self-realization field much more easily. So I will continually remind you throughout this book of the importance of separating the label of language from the experience the label is pointing to. In this context, the harmonic field which I'm referring to, so that is pointing to this non-resistant experience of anything that comes your way from the objects of consciousness, and you do not resist that. So the core emotion of peace refers to the light feeling within you, which is physiologically felt as well as your muscles are more relaxed, your neck region is much more relaxed, there is no tension in this part. You are more sharper, you are more available every moment, and every experience is more detailed. The physical experiences, it's more intimate. A relationship with now. So what we seek right now is an intimate relationship with everything around us. We want to be completely present, anxiety free. The now in this context is not just one single frame that you can capture, like in the transistors of your phone, for example. Now is not a continuous change that can be imagined in your mind. In order to truly experience and comprehend the now, the one Eckhart Tolle, the famous spiritual teacher of this timeline, so he talks about the now in his book, The Power of Now. So now, to truly experience this now, you transparently experience the body, the mind, the world, where the duality of I as the subject and that as the object is seen to be woven quite intimately in just one unified field, which itself, that field itself, is manifesting as now and it moves. So a recognition that you are the now will be an intuitive knowing. So it might look like a mental navigation, which is quite needed because there is a conditioning already in your mind. So it's all right to gradually shift from a mental conclusion, and a lot of aha moments. You keep realizing this truth that now is nothing but that unified field manifesting as everything. So it will be an intuitive knowing eventually. A non-resistive relationship with the now means meeting the present moment as it is without a mental or emotional friction. It is the act of allowing reality to unfold without instantly labeling it as good or bad, fair or unfair. Both are allowed in this space. We are not playing the game of good and bad at this point. It is subjective, some are quite obvious especially when an objective of question is showing or creating sound forms you intuit something is in distress. So now there is an intuitive way of categorizing good and bad, and now there is an egoic way of categorizing good and bad. So henceforth we carefully navigate this path by taking a neutral approach initially, and henceforth there is a misconception in this world that spirituality is not practical, because people only know the initial steps of it. Eventually one who dives deep into the spiritual realm knows it. The good and bad is seen, but at this point it is an intuition, no more a memory based egoic way of looking at the duality of good and bad. The growth is in recognizing how you just look at things, the true expression of objects, and then you intuit, because it is the same consciousness, it is the same field. You just realize that no, that is not good for the growth, that is not good for the movement of that object in consciousness. So spirituality is not impractical. For the one who has gone all the way clearly knows that it is a necessity for this timeline, and it has to grow slowly. Whoever are in this path, I thank you for entering this path. Make sure you deepen your understanding, not the mental conclusion, but the felt energetic way of realizing the nature of reality. Just deepen yourself, and the coming generations will follow this. You will be the torch bearer in the future. This lifetime or another, the game will go on in higher realms, but this time, we have made a conscious choice to take the direction to be a game in light, not in darkness. Alright. So without this labeling, in this state, the mind does not create unnecessary tension by wishing things were different. For instance, imagine being caught in unexpected traffic, which is the most common scenario for the one who travel for work or anywhere. So on the way to an important meeting here, so somebody who's going to work, you have an important meeting, a resistive response would involve an inner agitation, complaints, and anxious thoughts about being late. A non-resistive approach for the same scenario, on the other hand, you accept the situation fully. You may still take the practical steps like informing the meeting host, but internally there is peace. You are not mentally fighting this moment, even though it's not what you prefer. This inner allowing opens space for clarity and insight, and even a presence based joy, causeless joy. It does not mean passivity. As I say, spirituality is not about the passive way of living or a lack of action. It means that your actions are no longer driven by that internal resistance or fear. You are in touch with the reality of the moment, not the story in your head about now, right? It's quite important that you differentiate how entangled you are with the story and how distant you are in seeing the nature of the story. When you are not resisting the now, even difficult emotions like sadness or fear are allowed to be felt without suppression or judgment. This gentle openness is the beginning of an awakened relationship with life. You realize that peace is not the result of a perfect circumstance which you imagine, but it is the absence of that internal struggle with what is in this moment. And memory induced emotions, it is quite self-explanatory, but I will read this. Memory induced emotions are emotional responses which are triggered not by the present moment but by recollections of the past. These emotions, whether it is pleasant or painful, can create a temporary psychological atmosphere that feels real, but it is disconnected from what is actually unfolding now. For instance, remembering a joyful celebration might bring a smile or a sense of warmth within you. Similarly, recalling a loss or failure might pull the body mind into a spiral of sadness or regret. While these emotions feel valid, they often distort the immediate reality by overlaying it with the mental projections. So, the peace of the present moment, which is available beneath all stories, gets veiled by this emotional coloring from the past. To make it clear, cherishing these beautiful memories is not inherently problematic. In fact, reverence to certain moments in life can be part of our human richness. That is what makes us humans. But the issue arises when memory becomes a replacement for presence. Many people unknowingly seek comfort in memory rather than just engaging with the raw aliveness of now. A person sitting in a serene garden may fail to notice its beauty because their mind is lost in that nostalgia about a similar moment from years ago. So the mind quietly says that was better, while missing what is fresh and sacred right here and in this moment. So this resistance to now creates a subtle restlessness, and the emotional harmony is disturbed not by the external world but by the internal prioritization of memory over the reality in this moment. The deeper pattern behind this tendency is rooted, of course, in the identity. The whole background of this particular chapter, it has 2 points. One, your identity is rooted as consciousness, which provides a stable emotional field, and then of course the identity I am is followed by an ego, which is basically your role, whatever it is. Role is inherently not a bad thing, but you clinging on to that role so deeply that you don't even differentiate between your natural identity of consciousness and the memory base, because you invested a lot of energy and time in the particular role. You take it too seriously. So now that is the momentum of karma or ego, which will eventually fade away in this lifetime or another, depending on how dry you are to burn your ego. Okay. The limited or imagined self is always seeking a sense of completion. It clings to past glories or wounds as evidence of who it is. When it recalls a happy memory, it temporarily feels whole, believing that it has returned to something it once was. But this wholeness is very fragile because it is based on an image and not presence. The mind replays the memory to capture a feeling, but it fades like just a mirage, as you move in time. This constant emotional referencing to memory keeps on swinging between pleasure and pain, making peace appear as something to be chased rather than uncovered. True emotional harmony arises not from clinging to what was, but from being fully available to what is here. The present moment, even if emotionally neutral or quiet, it might be boring initially, but that boringness holds a depth of peace that memory can never replace or even replicate for that matter. So it is untouched by the drama of the mental time. The stillness, silence is always untouched and available. Recognizing this helps one slowly let go of the habit of seeking solace in just the memories. Instead, there is a growing trust that everything needed for inner fulfillment is already alive in the now, beyond your stories, images, or just the surface emotions. In this awareness, the emotional body softens and the heart naturally aligns with the presence. When one begins to untangle from memory based emotions, the internal space becomes less cluttered by stories of who one has been, what one has experienced, and how one has felt before. This clearing of emotional residue creates the stillness necessary for the non dual codex within the individual to come into alignment and begin its subtle activation. So, in the contemplative meditations, especially when asking the question, who is here, when the memory and the concepts are not engaged. So, now it's quite important without referring to the memory of the roles or the concepts we have learned about our identity, that is the biological way or the psychological way of understanding ourselves. If you keep all of this aside for some time, and if you ask the question, who is here, that the absence of memory driven identity allows pure awareness to shine through. Without referencing the past or defining the self through emotional reminiscence, what remains is the silent presence that always simply is. It is from this unclouded space that the realization of non duality emerges, not as a concept but as a living recognition of the formless, timeless awareness that one truly is. Now, sensory pleasure and how can relate this to emotions, of course, engaging in experiences like simple as tasting something sweet, hearing a soothing music, or feeling a soft texture. This prompts the brain to release the neurotransmitters, the reflection basically of the emotions, and we measure it with neurotransmitters such as the dopamine and serotonin or even the endorphins. Now, these chemicals create a temporary sense of satisfaction or relief, reinforcing the association between the physical sensation and the emotional well being. So, although this sensory emotional link is biologically natural, problems arise when emotional regulation depends solely on the sensory stimulus, often without the awareness. So now I just talk about taste in detail over here. Sound, similarly how sounds can, how we link particular music or a sound form with our emotions based on memory, and it can trigger a particular emotion. All the five senses is being discussed here, and you can go back in your own memory lane and see what is it that gives you a pleasant emotion. Now you get addicted to it, you get addicted to sensory pleasures because you have convinced yourself the way to be present is through this sensory inputs alone. While they are quite nice, it's good to enjoy the sensory inputs. The key is in not getting addicted to it, and the way to go about it is to realize the identity as consciousness, that you are everything you experience, and not limit your happiness to those objects, limited objects or relationships or activities. Now these specific labels I use right now, it is from Rupert Spire. I do not take any credit, you know, in aligning these sound forms. In fact, many of the terms I use, the labels I use are from what I have read. Some of them I can relate to my own experience. Henceforth, I use these. There are no better replacements I have found yet for these labels. So I'll end with this particular sensory part with this paragraph. So now this unconscious dependence reveals unconscious dependence on the sensory inputs for our happiness or a pleasant emotion. Now this reveals how the ego is functioning through a limited identity and manipulates the matter matrix, that is the sensory based external world, to artificially sustain that emotional balance. Within the tetrahedron model of the inner system, that is which we have been discussing, the ego attempts to stabilize the harmonic field not through alignment with awareness, but by outsourcing the harmony to fleeting sensory experiences. While this may offer momentary peace, it blocks the deeper activation of the non-dual codex, which can only arise when emotional harmony is rooted in the truth of who we are and not the illusion. The real shift begins when one sees that lasting peace does not come from controlling sensory input, but from realizing the false identity that depends on it. So now we can make use of every activity to find the harmony. So, as I say, like from the moment we open our eyes in the morning until the moment we return to the rest in the night. So life presents itself with a continuous stream of activities. So now each of these activities, whether it's simply brushing your teeth, having a meal, having a conversation, or completing your work, all of this holds the potential to strengthen your harmonic field within on how you interact, how present you are. So while these actions often appear mundane or repetitive, their deepest significance lies in the way we relate to them. When done with the presence, each action becomes an opportunity to stabilize the emotional clarity and reconnect with the consciousness identity. Even the smallest gestures, folding a blanket, drinking water, walking to the next room, can serve as silent reminders of our nature as awareness, not just personality acting out of a routine. There is an awareness in every activity, so you become more grounded in your presence when you're aware of every activity. So, at a deeper level, every activity is an unconscious attempt to feel whole, whether it's reaching out for a phone, opening your social media account, or organizing your day, or even speaking to someone, we are in essence searching for that sense of harmony within. The ego translates this search into productivity, recognition, pleasure, or connection. But behind all this motion is a single yearning to rest in peace with ourselves and our reality and with this moment, with our own story, in fact. When one begins to live with this insight, the quality of activity changes. Life is no longer something to manage or chase after. It becomes a sacred unfolding where each task is both functional and transformational. It is not about renouncing activity, but realizing that each moment offers a chance to realign with the self that is already whole. So, to summarize this chapter, so we have explored the subtle truth that what we deeply seek through emotions is already present within us. So emotional harmony is not a distant state to be achieved, but a natural state to be simply recognized. The moment we become aware of our fundamental identity, not as a fixed personality or a memory-based self, but as the conscious presence, we realize that peace is always available. From this space, emotions lose their control over us and begin to serve as messengers rather than the masters. Harmony is not created through suppression or external stimulation, but through alignment with the stillness that is already here. So, each subtopic in this chapter we have discussed, it has revealed how the search for emotional harmony takes various unconscious forms. The memory induced emotions show how we replay the past to recreate feelings of self worth or a safety. Sensory pleasure reveal our dependence on the matter matrix to generate the temporary ease. And our daily activities, as discussed, are often driven by the desire to return to wholeness. So, what was once an automatic, emotionally reactive life can now be understood as a coded opportunity to return to presence. By bringing awareness into these patterns, the unconscious seeking becomes a conscious search for awakening. When the non dual codex begins to activate in awareness, the harmonic field within us becomes more stable and self sustained. This field is not an imagined or superimposed, but it is felt as a state of an existential clarity and peace. It is the emotional signature of truth. Living from this awakened identity allows emotional harmony to deepen naturally. Life's activities no longer serve as distractions or escapes but become graceful expressions of being already at rest. In recognizing this, emotional harmony is not something we pursue, it is something we live. Thank you for watching this video, and in the next video we will start with the second chapter, Muddied Crystal, which deals with our intellect. Thank you.